guys, welcome back to another episode of Balanced and Bougie. Today you have me, Erica, and we're talking about another relationship examination. When I was feeling a little bit bored earlier today, I went ahead and went on one of my favorite slash least favorite apps, Reddit, and I went to the r slash friendship advice Reddit and kind of started scrolling through and seeing what would be interesting to talk about with you guys today. I landed on one that I thought was really interesting, and I honestly, I'm not even sure where I'm gonna go with this because I just kind of felt like maybe it was a red flag, and I wanted to go ahead and use this maybe as a jumping off point to be like, hey, is this normal? Is my friendship normal? Maybe not even normal, because I don't think what I actually mean is normal. I more mean like healthy. Is this healthy? Because if you interact in a way that's different than what you see somewhere, and you're both happy and fulfilled, and it's, safe, then great. But I definitely also have learned through life that friendships themselves can become very toxic, whether it be just the way the two individuals mesh or one person kind of enacting their will upon the other. Friendships have that same capacity that romantic relationships have to become unsafe or unhealthy. It's just, I think, maybe a little bit easier to kind of leave because you don't, interwoven your lives as much as often. But I can definitely speak from my own personal experience that realizing that someone you're friends with may have a few red flags doesn't make it easy to go. It doesn't make it easy to leave, and doesn't make it like less stressful or scary or sad, even if you realize the right thing to do is move on. So let's go ahead and jump right into this Reddit question and see where it goes. And hopefully I'm able to kind of figure out the roadmap once I'm already driving, if that makes sense. Otherwise, hey, thanks for listening to me ramble. I appreciate the platform I've given myself to keep talking. Okay, so the title of this question or situation, I guess, is there a way to hide my location from one person without unsharing? Which, I don't know. I immediately saw that and was like, okay, red flag, I'm going in. I have this one friend who is constantly stalking my location and using it against me by getting angry that I spend more time with other friends versus her. Just the thought of her constantly stalking my location makes me really uncomfortable. I share my location with many friends, but none of them make me feel this way. She has told me that she stalks my location like it's social media, and to the point where she can see what room I am in my house. I just feel like she takes it way beyond just casually sharing locations, especially since she tracks how much time I spend with others versus her. I want to hide my location temporarily from her, but not from my other friends. Is there a way to do this without unsharing completely? I honestly just want to see what her reaction would be if she couldn't access my whereabouts for a few hours. Okay, I'm just so curious for those of you listening. Was that an immediate red flag for you? Were you listening to that and thinking, oh my gosh, that doesn't sound good at all? Or were you like, oh, haha, whatever. I guess I want to start with, I do share my location with several people. Not everybody, but I have a few friends who live really, I was going to say really far away from me, but I share it with a couple friends who are close too. I think I have maybe 6 people who have my location, and I don't even know why I've done it. Like, I think theoretically I'll share it like once with somebody to be like, hey, here's where I am. We're at this busy place and you can find me. But also, I do look sometimes. Like, I have friends who live in Indiana. Hey guys, shout out. Love you. I have some friends in Indiana who I just went to go visit at the time of this recording just a couple days ago. And I know that they can see my location. So when I'm traveling there, they're able to just kind of click on the map, see where I am, gives them even like with me communicating to them throughout the day, they're able to kind of see when I might be getting in, make sure I'm alive. They'd be able to send help for me if something were to go wrong. And I appreciate it. But also just like sometimes I'll randomly get a message from them and they'll be like, hey, why are you in this different state? And it's just funny, and it's not all the time. So I'm not here trying to be the like, don't share your location police, because I do share my location. And I have several friends' locations as well that I check occasionally, and usually to be funny. At least it feels that way to me. But now that I'm reading this, I'm like, oh, I hope it's always felt that way to others. But usually, I think specifically in relations to like, oh, we're meeting up. Has this person left their house yet? Because if they haven't left their house yet, I'm not leaving my house yet. They live further from me. I don't know. That was a bit of a ramble, but I think people who are my age are often sharing their location with their friends. I think it started with like Snapchat had this feature called Snap Map, and you made your like little person or your Bitmoji, and you got to see where you were on a map compared to all the other people that you were friends with that did the sharing. And that was, kind of its own form of social media, like this post said. But you often, like, you could just turn it off. And I turn it off all the time. I think people who are maybe a few years older than me might hear this location sharing and think, oh my gosh, that's crazy. That's a lot. That's intense. But I absolutely know that people who are younger than me are doing it all the time. Like, I know lots of people on like Life 360 because their parents had them on Life 360 when they were in like high school and college. And so they have like their boyfriends and girlfriends and friends and all these things on Life 360 so they can see where they are all the time. And I will like admittedly say when I first started hearing about these couples who have their partners on Life 360, it made me feel like a bit nervous and uncomfortable about the idea that well, then your partner knows where you are all the time. And while I don't care if my husband knows where I am all the time, like I'm comfortable with that, it just immediately made me think of, people who may be in different situations where it's not exactly safe for your partner to know where you are all the time and maybe you're trying to leave. But I think that's kind of like an extremist thought process that I have, although it is something that lives in the back of my mind that now that we have so much media tracking where we are all the time, it's harder to get away with being more off the grid, being more private without it seeming like, oh, do you want to not share your location with me because you're cheating, because you're being shifty? And, I definitely see that kind of line. So I do think when we're getting into this location sharing, we are getting into a bit of that. What is surveillance state and what is community and what is like simply information sharing? All of that to say, my red flag here had nothing to do with location sharing. It has to do with her saying, getting angry, or had to do with this friend who is constantly checking the location, getting angry at the original poster for spending time with other people. That is completely unacceptable, in my opinion. It's okay to be disappointed or feel a little bit jealous when you realize that one of your close friends is hanging out with somebody else. But we aren't everything to everyone, and we don't want our friends to only have one friend, right? I want my friends to be as supported as possible. And sometimes I might not be the perfect friend for every situation for them, whether that be different interests, whether that be availability, whether that just be comfortability and communication styles. I want my friends to have many friends to choose from so that they're able to get the support that they need and also have like the fun that they want to have. Because if somebody calls me and is like, hey, I would really like, ooh, what do I hate? I like a lot of things, actually. I'm like trying to pop and be like, what would I hate this? And I'm like, oh, no, I would do most things if my friends asked me to go try something because like, I like that. Okay, no, I got it. Okay. If somebody was like, oh, it's super fun coding, let's go take a coding class together, I would politely decline. I have no interest in learning computer language. I did it one time. I was not great at it. But then it, suffice to say, didn't matter to my life or career, and I found it really boring. And that's not a dig at anyone who likes it, because it's great. It can be a lucrative skill. It can be a fun skill. I'm excited for you. I don't like it. Whatever. And so my friend comes up to me and asks me if I want to go to a coding thing with them. I'm going to tell them no, and I hope that they find a friend who wants to go. Actually, I'm calling myself out here. I would say yes if they didn't have someone else to go with, because I do want to be supportive, but know that I would be doing that for you out of love, not out of desire, right? And so I do hope that my friends find people that they can genuinely relate to on all the different interests that they have, and not just have somebody going along with them for the ride. So the idea of being like, how dare you be spending more time with Emily than you're spending with me? That's not cool. That is a form of control. And it's definitely something I've experienced as, as a person. I've had friends before who feel disappointed or frustrated that I spend time with other people. And very quickly, that has always, I feel like that's a really good litmus test that somebody and I are not going to be able to stay friends long term, because I'm not going to be able to meet that emotional need for them. And often it turns into some sort of, resentment. And that's not to say that you don't have a right to tell your friends, I need a certain amount of connection to maintain our friendship. I do recognize that you're like, well, if you never text me back, we can't be friends. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just recognizing that your friends should want you to be happy, and wanting you to not be with other friends is not wishing the best for you. Looking back at the post again, it says, she tells me that she stalks my location like it's social media to see what room I am in my house, and is taking it way beyond casual sharing. Your intuition is telling you that there is something wrong. Because you're like, I feel like right now you're asking about the wrong thing. You're asking about, like, how do I stop sharing my location with her for a little bit, but still let my other friends see it? That's not the question you should be asking. The questions that you should be asking are like, why is she bothered by this? Why is she taking it out on me? There is no reason for her to be angry at you for wherever you are. That's your business. It's if you start approving this behavior from your friends, or God forbid, a partner, that is actually just like the first red flag into toxic or scary behavior that you're missing. And the reason I really even wanted to make this episode was because we so easily can excuse unhealthy or inappropriate behavior from those that we love because we're able to kind of see where they're coming from, or we care about them and we're able to justify their actions and we want to see the best in them. But that leads to tolerating intolerable behavior. And in my opinion, somebody getting actually angry at you, bringing it up, having fights with you about seeing other friends is an intolerable offense. They do not get to dictate who you see and when you see them. They are not your parent. They are not your keeper. And you do not owe them that level of community or connection at all. And them keeping tabs on you is just a sign of the bigger picture of how unhealthy your relationship with this individual probably is already, if not is heading in that direction. You later say, I want to hide my location temporarily from her and not from others. Is there a way to do this without unsharing it completely? I really don't know. I know that you can just unshare it with somebody, and I don't think that it gives them a notification that you're unsharing it with them, but it would give them a notification when you reshared it with them. So just to answer your question and give you the information you need, like, you can unshare it without them finding out, but she would find out the moment that she went to look at your location and see that it's not public. And so, you could get into the situation where she then knows you've unshared it, or she may believe that there's something wrong with your phone or something wrong with you. I'm unsure, but I really don't think this is actually the crux of your issue. And then you say, I honestly just went to see what her reaction would be if she couldn't access my whereabouts for a few hours. For a few hours. So she is checking your location regularly every day. I'm not saying that, I don't know, checking out maps real quick and seeing where your friends are every day. I'm not saying that that is inherently like bad. I'm making a lot of caveats because I know this is actually a behavior maybe we all, I don't know. I'm going to project that onto you. I know it's like fairly typical and common to check locations for random reasons, but for her to be checking on it and then checking in with you, it's just definitely a sign of worse to come. Because what's going to happen when this friend starts deciding, not only can you not spend more time with them, but you actually shouldn't be spending time with anyone other than her. And would that also extend to your family? Maybe she should be the only one in your life. And that's isolation. And it's actually a tactic that people use to gain further control over you. And I find this to be very concerning. And if you're listening right now and you're noticing that you have a friend who is interacting with you that way, because it is so easy to miss some of these red flags when you're excited to get to know somebody, when you're bonding with them, when you're connecting with them on many activities and interests, and you've already been vulnerable with this person. You don't want to see these poor behaviors out of them, or you want to assume they're coming from a good place. Even if this behavior was coming out of a place of insecurity for them and something that wasn't necessarily malicious, it doesn't matter because it's already crossed the line into toxic. And this is kind of where in life we get into the difference between intent and impact. She may not intend to be isolating you, but the impact is that her behavior is isolating you. So if you're asking, what can I do? Can I stop sharing my location for a minute? What's she going to do? I think the lines have already been crossed. And I really want you to be prepared for the fact that this friendship probably should end. You could go ahead and just stop sharing your location with her and see if she freaks out. And if she doesn't care at all, then I guess maybe it wasn't as big a deal as you thought it was. However, that's not what I anticipate happening. I would anticipate that you're going to stop sharing your location. She's going to be offended or upset and reach out to you and be like, why aren't you sharing this with me? What are you hiding from me? And that, again, is just showing that pattern of behavior that is intolerable. And so my advice and recommendation to you would be cut it off. Stop sharing your location. Maybe reassess who you're sharing your location with, because depending on your age, your life, and who you are, no one else needs all of that information about you. And just because you've allowed something once doesn't mean you have to continue allowing it. I know it can feel weird, kind of like rescinding the acceptance of the location sharing, but there's nothing wrong with that. You don't owe someone continued approval for something that you gave approval to once. You may have shared your location with her for a little bit because you wanted to, and then you could choose to change it and not share it. And that goes, for everybody. You could choose to stop sharing your location with anyone in your life, and in my opinion, that's okay. You don't owe anyone the constant awareness of where you are. I don't have my husband's location 100% of the time. And I think that's the one instance in relationships where people can kind of justify maybe it being all the time. Or say you're a minor and your parents want to know where you are, which then they have the right to know where you are because, they're your parent. But, I don't have his location all the time. I don't need to know where he is all the time. If I don't trust him to be faithful, like if that's my concern, that we've already crossed a line, there's already problems building up there in the background. So I don't need his location all the time. He may share it with me when he's traveling, so I know where he is. Sometimes I'll ask him when he is, during his really busy season where he's coaching a couple different things and he's playing on different teams. I do ask him to share his location with me so I know what time he's going to come home for dinner because I'm cooking. I'm not saying there's no reason to ever do this, but he doesn't have to keep sharing it with me, and I'm not going to assume the worst in him when it's not, because he doesn't have it sharing continuously with me. And I can promise you he doesn't have it sharing continuously with anybody, because I think the idea of everyone knowing where he is all the time is, a horrifying thought, just like the idea of having an oven hooked up to the Wi-Fi is a horrifying thought to my husband. But yeah, I guess I know I've kind of gotten off track a little bit because I'm looking at all these like different caveats and thinking about these different scenarios and relationships and environments where, it kind of makes sense. But in the end, you don't owe anybody the continued consent to know where you are all the time. And you have the right to change your mind and it not cause a problem. I have friends who shared their locations with me for long periods of time and then choose to not share their location anymore. And I've never once been like, oh, that's because of me. No, we have a right to privacy, even if the privacy isn't protecting anything particularly private. We are currently existing in a space where people have access to your location all the time. They have access to contacting you all the time through your phone, and they have access to everything going on in your life through social media, and we're constantly sharing. And honestly, I don't think we're meant to do that. And I don't think it's healthy. I don't. And see how quickly these things kind of warp, right? So you shared it with your friend, and now they've gotten an obsessive behavior with it, and it's become toxic. I see those same things happen with, text messages. Like, well, I see that you're on Facebook. So I know that you saw my text message and you didn't respond to me. Well, I don't see anything wrong with that. Like, I'll get back to you eventually. I'm doing something or I'm not in the mood to talk. But our society and our current environment play that as a problem, that you should be available all the time. So maybe you should be sharing your location all the time. We were never meant to be accessible 100% of the time to everyone in our lives. And if you feel like you want to take that space to not be accessible to everyone all the time, it's not a statement on your relationships, and it's not a statement on you. A healthy boundary to be putting in place with your friends or yourself or anything at all. So what I really hope comes out of this episode, if anything, is that we start to think about appropriate boundaries and noticing those red flags when they're appearing to us, as opposed to justifying bad behavior out of those we love, because so quickly that can stack up. And like, I'm not going to insinuate that your friend is going to, I don't know, harm you. Like, that's not where I'm going, but they do want all your attention. They do not have your best interest at heart when they are reacting this way. They have their own best interest at heart, and they obviously have their own things that they need to work through, and they're not ready for that friendship with you. Okay. I know I got a little off track there, and we're definitely kind of dancing around some really intense topics, and I don't want to go like full force into, domestic disputes and toxic friendships and, all of these things. But I just thought it was like a good moment to sit and think, hey, no one needs to know where you are right now. That's okay. The world we live in right now is weird. And your friends don't owe you their locations and you don't owe them theirs. But in the end, your friend should want what's best for you. Your friend should be okay with you having healthy boundaries, with you wanting your space sometimes. And you shouldn't feel scared of standing your ground or having a boundary and thinking it's going to harm your friendship. Boundaries are normal. They're healthy. And they're an important part of keeping your friendships going long term. Anyway, I really thank you guys for listening today, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And I can't wait to do this again. And also, my hair is growing. I know those of you listening, you can't see it, but my hair is like, when I turn to the side, it can kind of touch my shoulders for a minute. But like, it's below my jaw. Big deal, guys. I'm in a good mood about it. All right, I'll talk to you later. Bye.